Hey, good day, everybody. We're at the 23rd of July, 2025. I'm Connor MacIvor. Let's talk about what's happening in the real estate market. But before I get to that, talk about our daily update. I do these every single day. If you want to see them, you can very simply go to Santa Clarita openhouses.com. If you want to get me into a Zoom meeting, more than happy to do that, talking about what you should be looking at with regard to this particular market in real estate. If you're buying or selling a home, wanting to invest in real estate, those strategies, go to zoommescv.com, zoommescv.com, or even on the Santa Clarita openhouses.com website. Set up an appointment with me, and we'll be able to do that 30, 45 minutes. We'll listen to you. That's first and foremost what you want to do. And then we'll pull it apart and find the best strategies for you to accomplish whatever your real estate desires happen to be. All right, let's look at just a couple things here. As far as when people are looking to purchase residential real estate, right now, this particular market, because of all the price changes we're seeing, and I'll give you those numbers real quick just to back up my position on this. 103 properties have had their listings price changed over the past 7 days. That's a bunch. That's a whole lot of properties. That's been a very typical average over the last several weeks. What that means. And most of those price changes are reductions. At least 3 or 4, depending on the week, those are price increases. And a lot of that I would blame. So new housing, I see those prices being manipulated and changed. They have their weekly reports that come out. They look at where the numbers are. If properties happen to be selling at a particular rate, then they'll readjust those prices, hence price increases in some cases. And then the reductions in prices typically happen, depending on strategy, 7, 14, 21, 30 days later. Usually it's the 30-day mark. If there's not much activity on a property, sellers are usually going to adjust that 30-day price point or the 30-day time on market time frame. Then they're going to reduce that price accordingly at that time. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it usually does kick off the advertising marketing on the syndication sites, the Zillows, the Realtor.coms, the Redfins. They're going to pick up that listing and propagate it depending on the strategy of the site. They're all built around trying to get you to give up who you are, just so you know. So they're going to tease you with different properties, of course, but ultimately you should be able to search for properties without giving up any personal information, including getting further information about them without having to give up who you are, at least to a point. But make sure if you're going to do that, if you're going to, give up your personal information, it's worth some money. I would give it to somebody local. I wouldn't give it to a syndication site. They're going to end up giving it to 7 to 10 different agents that are paying money to be members of that platform. All right, I'm off my soapbox on that. Price changes. Here's the deal with the buyers out there. You want to look at properties that have been on the market a little while, even at the beginning. You want to find out where their true value is. It's not hard to do. Your agent should be able to do that research. And let's say you're qualified. Let's say your comfort point, not qualification, your comfort point on a residence, because usually qualification is a lot higher than most people's comfort zone when it comes to buying real estate. You might be qualified to $1 million. You might be able to go out, you and your significant other, or you and yourself, or you and whomever may be able to afford or qualify for $1 million in real estate. That's that type of property. You can buy $1 million, but you look at all those numbers, pull those apart. Maybe that's too much money for you. So back it off. Let's say 900. Then if you're looking at 900, you want to have your agent look at properties that are just a little bit above that price range. Not in every market, but this particular market, because of the price changes and the price reductions out there in the market, that's a strategy. You might be able to go in a little bit early, secure something with a lot less competition because you offer the correct amount. If there's a property out there at $950,000, for example, and you start looking at the comps, you have your agent do that research, and they come back and say, well, the true value of this thing is much closer to $900,000 or $890,000. This is why. And if there's good, substantial data based on apples to apples comparison with properties that have sold very recently, same neighborhood, same area, same development, in fact, same tract, Santa Clarita, most of it's organized by tracts, same tract, you're striking gold there. And especially if the subject property is the same in the way of upgrades, renovations, the interior components, the hard stuff that people put in, upgrading kitchens, bathrooms, if that's the same as those past solds, or maybe even in worse shape, then your offering strategy makes a lot of sense. I would come in lower. I would come in because this market is very level, maybe increasing a very slight degree, but incredibly level right now. We haven't started to see the sales prices bit into by the inventory because, frankly, inventory, even at 800 units, I think what was today? 787, 800 yesterday, 787 active units for sale. And out of those 16, this particular market is indicating that sellers are still wanting a little bit more than their properties are typically worth. But we're still not cutting into those sold prices, which is good to know. We're not declining as a real estate market. Price changes, they've always been there. They've always been part of the market. In these numbers, over 100 triple digits every single week, that's a little bit of a stretch. It hasn't been there that long, but I've been tracking those types of price changes since about February of this year. We've seen those numbers before that. It was 70 or 80, depending. Let me cover the rest of this real estate real quick. So 10 coming soon listings, 16 total, 10 coming soon have been placed in the last 7 days, 88 new listings entering the market this last week. We have 103 price changes, 20 properties have fallen out of escrow. That number's lower than typical. It goes to show that the buyers that are out there are really staying put with the properties they make offers on, which is good, especially if you have a unicorn property, something that has a lot of rare attributes and you were lucky enough to get something like that. But what I mean is single story, that's 1 in 5. That's kind of rare, I guess, all intents and purposes. If you want a single story, if you need it, it's important for you. Cul-de-sac, people love cul-de-sacs in some cases. Also, not having any rear neighbors, that's a big deal. RV parking, another kind of unicorn. To have a swimming pool and a yard space, another unicorn. People like that. So those types of things, you lock those in, typically you're not going to be going anywhere. But if that's, of course, if that's what you happen to be looking for. All right. So back on market properties, 20 active under market properties, 43. These are properties that have gone into escrow. Good, big number. 48 properties have switched over to pending status, deeper into escrow. 61 properties closed this week, about average. 7 expired, 7 canceled, 22 put on hold, 5 are withdrawn. Put on hold 22. What's going on there? Usually the hold status is if the sellers have an issue, unable to show the property. Maybe something happened. Maybe somebody got sick. These are valid reasons as to put a property on hold. In some cases, it seems like maybe agents are using this to try to slow the offers they're receiving. Maybe they price the property to be strategic in a way where they want multiple offers on it. So they went below the last comparable values in order to try to get people to offer more money to get more for the seller. In a lot of cases, that really does work. That whole don't ever disregard the auction frenzy. People will spend $300 on a slimline phone sold at a Secret Service auction. I've seen this happen. It blows my mind. And not to mention super high ticket items, Ferraris and stuff going out at a lot more than you could buy a brand new one. But that's the frenzy at an auction. People get very excited. Same thing when you're pricing a property lower than fair market value. Depending on the market, depending on the location, and depending on the rarity of that particular unit, that residential piece of real estate, you could really have, like I talked about the unicorn, you could have that unicorn property as an agent go have a strategy to go under market, and then all of a sudden you have an inbox full of offers. So you're sitting on 12 offers. At that point, some of the agents will incorrectly use a hold status to say, whoa, slow down. That shouldn't stop people, though. If you have a buyer's agent working for you, because a property's put on hold, you've seen it, and it goes hold, and you're like, oh my God, we wanted to make an offer today. Sorry, I had to talk with my lender. They just weren't available last night because they were enjoying time with their family, which may make you rethink that process. But I guess everybody has time for family. Anyway, we'll talk about that one later. So then you couldn't get your offer in, so they put the thing on hold. Don't let that stop you. Still have your agent submit the offer. You have to do that, even if the property's put on hold, and be part of that. Be part of that activity. Be part of that competitiveness. Be the one in there. Be the offer that also gets submitted with the other ones, period. They have an obligation unless your offer is frivolous, and it's such a low point where they've already had a discussion and gotten in writing from their seller that they're not going to accept offers below a certain amount. your offer will be submitted just as well, and then you'll be in the competition. Now, if the sellers, in this particular case in point, if they want to just choose somebody, they can do that. They don't have to counter everyone. They can just grab one and take it, or they can just counter one, or they can counter three, or they can counter six, and all the counters don't have to be the same. This one counter could say this one counter could say this. So there's a lot of different variables at play here, but what shouldn't be known is where those offers happen to be. That would kind of ruin the fairness of it. And I do know a lot of agents out there play a very solid game when it comes to that. People call it, oh, so where do we have to be to get the property? How's it? That kind of craps on everybody in the process when agents reveal that. And I'll tell you this, I know a lot of agents, at least the local out here in Santa Clarita, a lot of them aren't playing that game, which is a blessing. That's where that hiring that right agent really comes in, because then they're true to not only the seller, but to all the buyers out there. And believe it or not, they're going to still get the highest offer possible. Dialing it up another $100 or $200 could equate to that buyer changing their mind later because they thought they paid too much, because now they draw the conclusion, well, my agent said that the seller's agent told them that the highest offer they had was X amount of dollars. I bet you they were just screwing with us. Honey, I think we're going to pull out of this. I don't want to be an escrow anymore. I want to find something else. I think we overpaid. And then, of course, that snowball starts rolling downhill and picks up everybody in its path. All right, so there's where the market is. This is Wednesday. This is hump day here in Santa Clarita Valley. It's about 8:12 a.m. when I recorded this. Check out SantaClaritaOpenHouses.com. When you're ready to get on a Zoom meeting with me, I would love that. We'll sit down. Well, you can stand. We'll talk on computer. You don't have to be on video. I don't care. But we will do this over Zoom, and I'll explain to you after I hear your strategy where it's right, maybe where it's wrong, where it can be improved, and we'll work on the proper placement where your mindset needs to be to approach buying or selling real estate here in Santa Clarita. Elsewhere, I have a massive referral source for agents all across the country, so it works out wherever you're looking. I'm sure I can be ever present. I'll talk to you soon. I am Connor with Honor. We will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.